everybody ain't gonna move on the same pace. Like it's different paces for different people, and you gotta know how to walk a pace when you go with other people. Just knowing how to be a kid, you know what I mean? Like knowing how to just sit there and soak, not sulk. You know what I mean? Just really like embrace what you're going through and not try to run away from it.
What I just tell y'all,
You gotta feel it.
he has a great mind on his head. Stick to this video because there's a lot you're gonna learn today. All right, and we are back with another Northern Starlight interview. Who do we have today? I have my brother Sean. Yes, sir. Sean is a very intellectual guy, very free-form, free-flowing, just a cool guy all around. He's originally from NY, right?
Yeah.
Originally from New York, yeah. And then moved here when he was 6, around 6 or 7. So yeah, he still got that New York swag to him because he's always back and forth between here and there. I initially met him through a mutual friend who we just did an interview on, Summertime Rice. He said, yo, you will really like this dude. You guys would connect real easy. I didn't immediately hit him up, but then we sooner or later met, and then we ended up finding out that our sisters already knew each other. Just like I always say, coincidences are God's way of remaining anonymous by Albert Einstein. So me and him have a purpose, and we're here to build that purpose and make it, create it. So here we will hear his story, hear his past, present, and future, what he's been through, what he's going through, and what he's looking to move towards. And then sooner or later, we will have our own app where you'll be able to follow him on it, and he'll have a verified check on it, that blue check. But let's get to it. All right, so you guys already know when you initially meet somebody, you always have to introduce yourself. So I'm gonna have Sean introduce himself, and then we'll get straight to the story. So who are you, brother?
Well, my name is Sean. I go by many aliases. I go by Huey. I go by Father Shah, Dula. Anything you can really think of when it comes to me, it's different situations for how people know me. So I'm 22. I'm from Brooklyn, Queens, all that area, 347. Zodiac, Capricorn. I'm a true Capricorn, 111.
Capricorn is Earth, right?
Yeah, I want to say be Earth.
Yeah, I believe it's Earth. And my best friend, both of my best friends are Earth signs. So hey, maybe me and him just gonna connect like that. All right, so first question I have for you, Sean, is since me and the community that's watching wasn't with you while you was younger and you grew up, could you paint like a picture of a typical day for you?
Well, really, I wouldn't say I had a normal upbringing because we're different as people. So my normal might not be your normal, but really yeah, that whole concept. So, but in general, I mean, it was challenging. I wouldn't say it was the easiest thing to grow up. I'm the second oldest. They really put a lot of responsibility on me and my older sister to make sure that we not only ran ourselves to optimal way of living, but to make sure that we set an example for the ones under us. So I wouldn't say that, you know, we was up when the roosters woke up every morning, you know what I mean, besides like, you know, school and things like that. But we would be up, we would make sure we be, you know, ironing clothes, you know, cooking, cleaning, all the things that, you know, they try to separate from you at birth and saying what's for who. I was doing both, you know what I mean? It wasn't that's a sexist, you know, way of looking at it. Nah, it was, you gonna wash dishes and fold clothes and do all that. So
learn how to do all.
Word. That's the main thing. Like, you can't have nobody else really doing that for you. All stages of your life, you gotta learn how to do it somehow. So.
And you said your parents had you when they were young, right? Yeah. So my parents did as well. So you kind of grew up with them to an extent. So that's exactly why you're so responsible, because you had to hold responsibility and watch your younger siblings. Next question, second question I have for your past is, how did you stay entertained? How did you have fun?
I'm a music kid, you know what I mean? Like we grew up Well, first we was in Brooklyn. So in Brooklyn we was, listening to whatever Brooklyn was listening to. So if it was, Mary J. Blige, she was always playing up there at that time around like 03, 02. Of course, Biggie. Listening to 50 Cent. 50 Cent had the craziest era, if you're not talking about like Cameron and Dipset, shit like that. Like 50 Cent had the craziest era I've ever seen in my life. Like his reign was just crazy.
You see the distinct difference between us growing up and most of our time was spent outside and actually actively doing something than kids that's growing up now. We see our sisters always on the phone with each other.
It's a complete different atmosphere from how you was when you was younger. Like the only electronics we really knew about besides the actual console was like dial-up. If you're talking about computer, and you had to wait about 10 minutes for that shit to come up. You always hear the AOL or whatever was playing on the joint, the load-up screen. And you weren't getting on no computer back then.
Definitely, it took a minute. Like you just press a button now and everything come out. It took a
Word, house calls, all that. It's just different.
Phones connected that had the wires and everybody could listen to your comments.
You had to go all throughout the house with that same long wire. If you couldn't stretch in your room, bro, it's lit.
Like I said, I like to bring a sense of nostalgia, and like that just took me back right there. Right. Next question I have about your past. Did a old head ever spit some game to you, teach you a lesson that helped you while you was older, or a situation that you had to go through that taught you something? Anything like that helped you when you got older?
When the time we moved from New York to here, I was about 7. So like going through that, it wasn't the easiest transition because you had to figure out like what people was wearing down here. You know what I mean? Like people was wearing like, or calling shit like fatheads, or like the Timbs is just like was played out back then. Like it's just a lot of things that was like, it was kind of slow on catching on here. So like coming over here was like felt out of place for a good amount of years because it was like I go up to New York every summer or every holiday or whatever. I'm back up there, so it's like being torn in two situations. But there's a couple instances in growing up. I don't know if y'all know about Lindsay Middle School, but like growing up and going over there, like you had to be really like headstrong and tough, or you could get yourself in situations that you can't get out of. So like we would constantly chop it up, me and my pops, about like certain situations that could lead you going down one road instead of the right path for you, but you wouldn't even know that because you acting off of emotion, things like that. The first thing he told me, the thing I always remember, he was like, if the risk outweighs the reward, don't do it. Like, if it's that clear cut, don't do it. You know what I mean? And there's been plenty of situations where that's the thought in my head before I even say a word. You know what I mean? Like, and those are the make or break situations that I learned from even now. Like, I'll repeat that in my head.
Great lessons right there. You kind of had 2 of them where you said you came here young, 7 years old, and going to school at that age, like you try to make friends, you want friends and people to accept you. And like you said, you just came from New York, so you had one culture like embodied in you, but now you come into Virginia and now you got to accept a whole different culture, and like you said, you in between, so you kind of got to keep this culture. So the lesson there really is like, even from the beginning, you need to accept yourself for yourself, and whatever you like, you like. I think nowadays it's easier. You know, back in the day, it wasn't that easy, and that leads to the next point you said. You went to Lindsay, and Lindsay, if you know anything about Lindsay, that's a hard school. Like, so hood ass dudes go there, boy.
Word too. I'm well acquainted with a good amount of people that still rock with me, that go to Lindsay, and they tell the same thing. Like, if you was around at that point, like, you had to grow up quick. There was a lot of things that was going on. You ain't had no say so about it. You know what I'm saying? You either participated or walked away.
Definitely. So yeah, that's a good lesson that your father taught you. If the risk is greater than the reward, then just don't do it. Yeah. All right. Last question we have for your past, then we're gonna get on to your present. Is now looking in retrospect, would you change your life or would you keep it the same? Because if you watch like movies, they say you could change one small thing about your past and then you may be a totally different person now. Yeah, exactly. Change and maybe even everybody else's futures change just because you changed one thing. So, like, would you change anything or would you keep everything the same?
Only thing I'd probably change, I wouldn't say it's a definite, because like we just discussed, like if you change one thing, your future might not be the same thing, because it alters your whole mind.
And it's not even, it may not be a bad thing. Maybe if you change something, the future may be different, but that's the thing, we don't know the future.
So the one thing I probably would just learning how to go with the flow, you know what I mean? Like, it's a good thing to try to maintain your poise in every situation to the point where nothing is moving you, to where you're just doing everything for self, but that can only last for so long in this world. Like, you gotta learn how to go with the flow. You gotta learn how to, play a little catch up. You can't always want to be ahead or first in everything, because you're gonna fall behind in something else, not worrying about that. You know what I mean? So, just sitting and eating my food was one thing I wish I would have learned. You know what I mean? Kind of earlier, because there's a lot of situations I forced upon myself. You know what I mean? That I didn't have to do that. So.
Right. So you saying, like, figuratively, you try to eat your food and do other stuff?
Yeah. Just knowing how to be a kid. You know what I mean? Like, knowing how to just sit there and soak, not sulk. You know what I mean? Just really, like, embrace what you're going through and not try to run away from it.
Right. Hey, that's something, when you said you ain't always got to be the first person to do anything. That's something I just realized not too long ago. Like, if you think about it, a bell curve that we learned in school? Yeah. You remember that? Yeah. So the bell curve just represents, like, the typical success in something. Like, when it first starts out, not a lot of people doing it. When it's in the middle, a lot of people doing it, but at the end, not a lot of people doing it. So with that being said, usually the easiest time to do something is in the middle, not being the first, but not being the last. So you kind of got to be connected to know when to get into whatever you're trying to do. So yeah, that's a good lesson. But hey, we about to get on to Sean's present, see what he's crafting and creating on currently. And I know some things he's doing. He's working. I believe he's built to do what he's doing now. And yeah, we're gonna get to it. All right, so first question I have for you, Sean. Could you explain what you do now? How do you stay occupied in your day-to-day currently?
Well, shit, I work a full-time job. You know what I mean? I'm gonna keep that on wraps because I don't need y'all at my job.
Right.
But I do that when I'm not doing that. I'm making a beat. I'm making a song. I'm writing a song. I'm getting people together to make a song. You know what I mean? I'm connecting different tools to make sure that the job's done right. So just staying occupied. It's a weird age to be in. I'm pretty sure a lot of people feel that too. Like you're an adult, but you're still transitioning into adulthood. So it's a lot of things I got to learn before I can really take that step of faith without having no doubts about what I need to do for this next point in my life. So I do a lot. I do a lot of maintaining and making sure everyone around me is at least on the same type of page.
And I know when we first met, I made a little group of people that I believe are very conscious, and I want this group to help the world, right? And when I first recruited Sean for it, he told me, he said, I'm gonna mostly be in the background about it, but I'm gonna always be here to help. I'm gonna be here to connect people. He said he loves just connecting. You said you do music, right? Yeah. And Big Sean just had an album that came out, and one line that he said that just keeps playing in my head, he said, I just want to be the missing link between me and my brothers and doing what they want to do. It didn't go exactly like that, but he said he wants to be the missing link. What do you think about that?
That's the biggest piece of why I'm still active and what I try to do for the community, because You know, it's different levels of participation that you can do, and you know, it's all different perspectives on who may be deemed as the biggest person to a group. But as long as that group is still standing after X amount of years, and it's no like no discrepancies or anything like that, then that's the biggest reward there is. You know, it's humanity at the end of the day. So I care a lot about not just that line, but just embodying it. You know what I mean, and really trying to put two and two together.
Right. It's not always important to be the biggest person in the group, like that, because the small parts are what count. Like the big parts will always be what they want to be, but the smaller parts are what constantly change. And I hate categorizing something and say this is bigger and bigger means it's more important, this is smaller and means it's not important. I hate categorizing stuff. So yeah, bigger parts are just as important as the people that don't want to be in the forefront. So with you always working, always trying to connect people, how do you stay entertained currently?
Always inclined to talk to those that saw me through. You know what I mean? Like just staying connected on a personal level as well, not just with business, you know what I mean, or monetary, but you stay connected with people. I really enjoy that because you don't always have to, you know, have an activity to do that, especially around these times. You know, you rather be doing something organic anyway that's not wasting your time, you know? So I do that. I'm a simple dude. I ride bikes, you know what I mean? I don't do too much.
This guy has a great mind on him. As you guys can see, his thought process is very, very acute or precise. Like you see he's not just anywhere. He doesn't let other things control him. He stays true to himself and does what he likes to do. And you guys will get to see his growth from here on up. Next question I have about your present is how has COVID changed your daily routine since before it started?
It's crazy because I've told a couple people I've had discussions with that were speaking about what happened like once COVID hit. So I was in New York when it hit, so like I was still living there, all that. So when it hit, I was already making changes to be more secluded anyway, which was weird. Like the whole month before it hit, like I left my job. I left where I was living at. I moved to another spot in Brooklyn. I was living in Queens at that point, but I moved to Brooklyn. And when I say like a couple days after I made that move, that's when COVID hit. And like I was already in the Kid Cudi stage, if you will, you know what I mean? Like I had my weed, I had my laptop at that point. I was just making beats and chilling, you know what I mean? Like that's kind of transitioning to, you know, being a lighter situation than what it was before. Like that's what I'm doing now. Like it's the same thing. I ain't really stepping out my bubble too much. Just making sure that, like I said before, all the pieces in my life is making sense so that I don't step too far out my boundaries. And then, so it's a blessing that I'm still making money during this time period. You know what I mean? That we still financially stable. That goes to anybody watching this. Like same thing. Peace and blessings.
Be grateful for what you do have. Don't be mad for what you don't have.
Exactly.
And that. Simply what you just said there, that's just like a testament to what we've been talking about, just a repeating topic of coincidences. And he already had the vision, okay, I'm gonna step back a little bit, stay in the crib a little more, not be as active, and then boom, COVID hits and he has to do it anyway. So we was talking about on the way here, not really forcing things. He didn't have to force that. The creator or whoever you guys believed in helped him continue what he already had in his brain. So, and I believe this is the last question. Yes, this is the last question for your present. If you could change something about society, right, and how everybody interacts with each other in an everyday situation, what would you change about society, right?
I used to be a big heckler on that topic and would have many a different suggestions. And one of the biggest ones, it's not the one that's now, but one of the biggest ones was being more socialist type society, meaning like just being more based on like not just government, but if we talking about government, like local government, or like to really make sure everyone locally is good so that everything else can make sense in the bigger spectrum of things. But living, and I said that around like 17, living these 5 extra years from then to now is like, you see everybody ain't gonna move on the same pace. Like it's different paces for different people, and you gotta know how to walk a pace when you go with other people. So my biggest thing now is probably changing the limit of how long you can be multitasking while we talking. You know what I mean? Like before you couldn't, if someone was calling you before, you have to run inside on a home phone, you know what I mean, to go connect with whoever's calling you. Now it's like you could be having the most in-depth, intimate type conversation with someone about any type of topic, and that could really be furthering either you or the other said person. And a phone call will just mess the whole thing up, or a text or something like that. And it could be perceived by so many different perspectives, from the person that saw you respond to that, or the person actually texting that. It will lose the whole conversation from that point on, and a lot of miscommunication go on. So that'd probably be my biggest thing. Like just limit the time where you're splitting your attention between 2 things. It could be TV and people, or TV and you doing your work or something for school, like things like that. That's really the biggest thing I've been focusing on. And free time in itself, you know, time is free. I don't care what nobody say, how everybody say time is money, this, that, and the third. Your time is always free, because no matter what you put yourself into, you gotta feel freedom in it, or you're never gonna feel free. You know what I mean? So time is free.
What I just tell y'all,
you gotta feel it.
He has a great mind on his head. There's two things I like to it about what you just said. One, time is free. Time is the only thing we're guaranteed and we're born with. Only time. And we don't know when that time will be taken away, when it's ending. So like you said, you gotta appreciate your time right now, because if you don't appreciate it now, you never will appreciate it.
Never will. It won't be a said future. You don't know what your future is tomorrow, so you gotta make that free time.
And we're seeing that now, like people we never think will die.
It's been a crazy year. 2020 it's been a crazy year, and people will try to blindside you and make you seem like, oh, you're noticing it too much, or like they'll try to say, oh, these people, death is natural, death is normal. It is. It's supposed to be a celebratory thing when you free someone of this time period to go into a next type of time, you know what I mean? Right. But you always got to make sure that you keep your head on the swivel, because don't let nobody tell you that you feeling something wrong or you feeling something different. It's always different. You're different for a reason. Everybody ain't made the same, and that's what makes us unique.
That's major. Stick to this video, because there's a lot you're gonna learn today. Definitely. Yes, sir. Major. I love all the answers that you've been giving today. They tough. That's why I keep myself around all my friends, because perspectives, they help me see the world more clearly. You know, like they give me better perspectives on the world, and I love it, man. That's why we're here. We're trying to show you other perspectives, show you the world more clearly. What if I don't know, like I could give an example right now, but I give so many examples. It's whatever. I'm gonna just keep going, bro.
We keep that for the
well, it's for the next one, bro. We're gonna be here for a long time, not a good time, you know. If you could change something about society, or fix something about how everybody's every day is ran, you know, just a normal day, what would you change about society?
I think this one is probably the best one that I can come up with, is meditation. I feel like if everyone taught their kids, regardless of how school teaches it,
how to meditate, how to really just practice your breathing. It don't even gotta be with, a lot of people think you gotta have crystals and a whole bunch of other things. You don't have to have that. You could just practice your breathing. If everyone taught each other how to do that, this world would be so better. It would have so much more opportunities for everyone, because when you practice your breathing, you can actually form better train of thought that way. When your thought is more linear than all over the place, then you have so much more opportunity to make something of yourself, regardless of how it comes about, how it plays out. You know, if your breathing is straight, you're thinking straight. So that's the best way I could come up.
And knowing that meditating is a broad term, like making music, making beats for Sean is meditation. Because when you get real good at like actually meditating, like sitting and meditating, you can literally meditate for like a month. Like monks in the mountains can meditate for weeks and months and be okay with it. Get right back up and be like, shoot, how long was I gone? It was only been 30 minutes, right? They be like, nah, bro, you've been out for a month. Like, it's because you're in the moment. Like, you know, they say time flies when you're having fun. It's because you're in the moment. You are what you're doing. So when Sean is making music, he is the music, you know? So he's meditating, you know? So know that whatever you have fun doing, knowing whatever you're passionate about is meditation. Right. Teaching, giving knowledge is meditation for me. For me, it's like I'm unloading all this knowledge in my brain and giving it to other people, and then hopefully they do the same thing to somebody else. Yep. That's meditation. So boom, a great present. Sean has had a stable background, stable past. He's still building a stable present. And now we got to finish the pyramid, finish the structure in the future. So let's get to it right now. See what he's pushing towards, where his field of vision is at. So first question I got for you, Huey. I'm switching back and forth.
Yeah, I'm still here. You know, I'm still here.
I like doing that.
I like it because it lets you know it's different type of personalities you're tuning into. So I like it.
But first question I have for you, if everything goes perfect in the next 5 years, so at that point it'll be 2025, what would you see yourself at? How you think you'll be living?
I'd definitely be in six figures. That's one of the top goals, to be in six figures. If I'm not there, I'm working on it. I have maybe a kid. You know, you never know how that goes. You have a kid, nice house, you know, cars. But all them things really don't mean nothing to me at the moment, only because getting there, you got to take the steps to get there. And that's how my future is. It's like I like taking steps, regardless of how hard or easy those steps are. Is you learning as you go. So all this is a learning experience, and I'm glad that those things are on my mind, because I know I'm gonna get them. So that's how it works.
I was just talking to my dad about that, how just like we said, when you have a plan, it usually works out, but you have to literally work the whole time. And then it seems like you take 2 steps forward, but then you take 1 step back. But that 1 step back isn't always a bad thing, because in those 2 steps forward, you was in whatever situation you was in. It didn't really work out, so you had to take 1 step back. All right, I see the whole thing now.
You can analyze it when you take a step back. You can always see the scene. You can always pay attention to it.
Yes, sir. It works for some people to just bulldoze through the whole thing, but I think it's better to go slow. You know, the story of the tortoise and the hare.
Yeah.
The steady, steady builds a better foundation. Yeah. So, yeah, one thing we want to teach you guys in manifesting whatever future you want is you're not just gonna wake up one day and be like, whoa, I'm a millionaire. No, you have to literally make choices and work each and every day to get to where you want to go. It ain't gonna be easy, but it'll be worth it though. All right, next question for the future. What would you, if you could predict the future, what do you think will be different about just the whole world in about 10 years? So it'll be 2030. You think it'll be like flying cars, or like what you think will be different, you know?
I could see that. I could definitely see like a lot of community centers and stuff would be like covered with like I could say like a type of glass mold, so it's better for like breathing purposes and things like that. You can actually see your air and things like. I feel like a lot of that is going to come into play where a lot more visual things will be for us, so it won't be as hard for the ones coming up to understand this world. It's going to be a way better visual world than it is like auditory or whatever other way of learning is going to be. I think visually it's going to always get better. I feel like all the stuff that you see in like sci-fi movies and stuff, I feel like at least 10% of that is going to come true.
Yeah, we're working towards that look.
Yep, and it's going to be a lot more development in that way. So I feel like it's going to be a better place for the youth, of course, because that's retrospective. We always look back and be like, wow, our youth was always better. So it's always going to be better for the youth coming up, and we're just trying to adapt to it. And the better you adapt to it, the better it's going to be for you. So,
what do you think would be different about your field, music and sound? Like, what do you think would be different?
That's going to be like, I feel like they're going to bring a lot more like sampling back, but more you doing the sampling. Like how RZA used to do his, and like how he used to just pick up random sounds from things like train tracks or whatever you want to call it. Like a lot of those type of things is going to be like elements of making music. It's like 4 elements of hip hop. So it's going to be, I feel like a 5th element is going to be kind of added into it because things constantly evolve. So it's going to be a better way for musicians to really make music out here too.
That's like a law of like hip hop is 4 elements of hip hop. Hey, Einstein said coincidence is God's way of remaining anonymous. There's 4 elements in the world: fire, water, earth, air. That's how you know it's law. That's how you know it's the truth, when it can correspond to something else. Yep, so that's how you know. And what's the next question? Oh, what are about 3 to 5 people, however many you want to do, celebrities that you would want to collaborate or work with in the future when you're in the field that you want to be?
I'd say Future would be one of them. I'd like to at least be in a room with Future and speak with Future. Jay-Z, Ab-Soul, some more. I feel like Kanye is definitely one. People you just gotta speak to, because certain things is like the media will make us fight against each other without us knowing that person per se, because that person could have done half of the things you heard and about 10% of the things you've seen, but just because it's magnified PI, you know what I mean, for us to see as private investigators, we all take a different look on it. But I like to know people personally before I ever make a decision on them, if that makes sense. Because we could be judgmental as people, that's how we are, you know, we're natural, we're humans, but the more we step out of our quote-unquote human nature and become more human, like joining together as humans, then we could see that we ain't really that much different, you know what I mean? There's a lot of things that I like to touch bases on with them. Yeah. So,
last question for the future. If you could insert some knowledge, just one lesson into each brain of each person in the world, what would you teach everybody?
Wow, that's an easy one then. I'd teach everybody how to play basketball, for real.
Why do you say that?
Because I feel like with basketball, anything that you could teach someone, that's a universal thing, no matter if it's for girls, for boys, for insects, or however they make it an animation. If it's something of that nature, you can teach it. So with basketball, like I teach my little sister how to play basketball, and she got on her own. She only 7. She could shoot better shots than I could have ever shot when I was 7 years old. And that's not even me putting a ball in her hand and shooting it for her. She's shooting herself. And that's the biggest thing I like to tell people. Like, if anything is universal, try to be able to teach that in a day-to-day life basis. So that's my lesson. I teach someone how to play basketball.
Yes, sir. And my brother could have said, you know, he got a great mind. He could have said anything elaborate, you know, made you think about it. But we always got to stay grounded, stick to the basics. Like, it ain't always got to be major, you know? Like, imagine trying to teach an infant M equals MC squared. Like, no, you you gotta build up to it. Like, hey, but he had a great story, didn't he? Though, but hey, be on the lookout. And with that being said, if you need any music advice, if you need any beats, hit up my man at Huey below, right?
Yep.
Yes, sir. I'm gonna put it down here so you can see it. Hey, stick with us. Follow him, follow me, follow the Northern Stars. Check us out at www.thenorthernstars.co. We gonna be here. Are you gonna be here? Hey, have a great day, family. Stay cool, stay in school. Peace.